Alright, hello everybody, welcome to another video. Today, my name is Chris, and today we're going to be going over the Rite Aid closing list as of Thursday, January 25th, 2024. So Rite Aid currently has locations in states such as Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So this is going to be the closing list. So I want to thank Mr. Herbert for putting together some of these documents. And today in this video, I'm going to be going over every single Rite Aid location that has been announced to be closing as of Thursday, January 25th, 2024. Now keep in mind, if you're watching this video in the foreseeable future, this video could be out of date, again, given that they probably are going to enter even more stores into their closing list. I do firmly believe that this is the end for Rite Aid. It's very hard to escape an opioid lawsuit, especially when, you know, you sell the same stuff as like a CVS or a Walgreens. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get started with the Rite Aid closing list and naming off all of the locations that have closed or in the process of closing or that are going to be starting closing sales today. Again, it really does vary location by location by location. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get started because this is a very long video and I want to try and get to all of the remaining locations. So, anyways, let's get started here. So we have the Rite Aid store in the Bronx, New York, the Rite Aid store in Milford, New Hampshire, the Rite Aid store in Midland, Michigan, the Rite Aid store in Everett, Washington, the Rite Aid store in Lee and LA Crescenta, California, the Rite Aid store in Allentown, Pennsylvania, the Rite Aid store in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, the Rite Aid store in Revere, Massachusetts, the Rite Aid store in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, the Rite Aid store in Baltimore, Maryland, the Rite Aid store in Franklin, New Hampshire, Rite Aid store in Los Angeles, California, Rite Aid store in Wally Wally, Washington, Rite Aid store in Boise, Idaho, Rite Aid store in Hayes, Virginia, Rite Aid store in El Maria, New York, Rite Aid store in Warren, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Altoona, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Tustin, California, Rite Aid store in Susanville, California, Rite Aid store in Leroy, New York, Rite Aid store in Cambridge, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Giovanna, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Amherst, Ohio, Rite Aid store, another Rite Aid in the Bronx, New York, Rite Aid store in Redlands, California, Rite Aid store in New Bedford, Massachusetts, Rite Aid store in Moreno Valley, California, Rite Aid store in Simi Valley, California, Rite Aid store in Bryan, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Howell, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Belflare, Washington, and Rite Aid store in Greensham, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Livermore, California, Rite Aid store in Milford, Connecticut, Rite Aid store in Auburn, New York, Rite Aid store in Brook Park, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Harrington, Delaware, Rite Aid store in Hemet, California, Rite Aid store in Westminster, California, Rite Aid store in Maple Heights, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Hartsdale, New York, Rite Aid store in Studio City, California, Rite Aid store in Portland, Oregon, and Rite Aid store in Cleveland, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Lake Stevens, Washington, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Long Beach, California, Rite Aid store in Kent, Washington, Rite Aid store in Erie, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in San Ramon, California, Rite Aid store in Battle Creek, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Waterford, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Eldensburg, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Bishop, California, Rite Aid store in Centerline, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Traverse City, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Detroit, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Fairport, New York, Rite Aid store in Hamburg, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Chester, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Bay City, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Three Rivers, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Claymont, Delaware, Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington, Rite Aid store in Oxford, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Baltimore, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Browns Mills, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Butler, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Toledo, Ohio, another Rite Aid store in Traverse City, Michigan, another Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington, and a Rite Aid store in Kirkland, Washington, which I guess is the home to Costco. Rite Aid store in Carsley, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Baltimore, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, another Rite Aid store in Detroit, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Manasquan, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Sylvania, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Paradise, California, Rite Aid store in Vineland, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Manchesonburg, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Asquan, Washington, Rite Aid store in Dershire, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Spokane, Washington, Rite Aid store in Melrose Park, Pennsylvania, another Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington, Rite Aid store in Muskegon, Michigan, Rite Aid store, another Rite Aid store in Portland, Oregon, Rite Aid store in Brooklyn, New York, Rite Aid store in Oneida, New York, Rite Aid store in Hampton, Virginia, Rite Aid store in Federal Way, Washington, Rite Aid store in Davis, California, Rite Aid store in Bakersfield, California, Rite Aid store in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Shagnaw, Michigan, Rite Aid store in North New Brunswick, New Jersey, Rite Aid store P.O. Box 1175, California, Rite Aid store in Rochester Hills, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Franklin, Virginia. Rite Aid store in North Canton, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Euclid, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Brunswick, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Waterbury, Connecticut. Rite Aid store in Wharton, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington. Rite Aid store in Milton, Freewater, Oregon. And Rite Aid store in Hyannis, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Hampton, New Hampshire. Rite Aid store in Troy, Michigan. Rite Aid store Route 202 in Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store at State College, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Youngstown, Ohio. Rite Aid store in West Haven, Connecticut. Rite Aid store in Agonaga, Michigan. Probably pronounced that wrong. Rite Aid store in Haddonfield, New Jersey. Rite Aid store in Ocean City, Maryland. Rite Aid store in North the Windy, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Mount Gilead, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Dayton, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Willowick, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Boise, Idaho. P.O. Box 746. Rite Aid in Connecticut. Rite Aid store in Florence, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Toledo, Ohio. Rite Aid store Canton, Ohio. Rite Aid store in South Lake Tahoe, California. Rite Aid store in New Haven, Connecticut. Rite Aid store in Norfolk, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Truckee, California. Rite Aid store in Tacoma, Washington. Rite Aid store in Salem, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Miller Place, New York. Rite Aid store in Glosson, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Beechwood, New Jersey. Rite Aid store in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in the Bronx, New York. Rite Aid store in Norfolk, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Chariton, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Bridgman, Michigan. Rite Aid store in St. Helens, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Capitola, California. Rite Aid store in Oakhurst, California. Rite Aid store in Argoria, California. Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington. Rite Aid store in Williamsburg, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Lacey, Washington. Rite Aid store in Gardenville, Nevada. Rite Aid store in Livermore, California. Rite Aid store in Sacramento, California. Rite Aid store in Morristown, New Jersey. Rite Aid store in Delmar, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Ansonia Park, Ansonia, Connecticut. Rite Aid store in Wilston Park, New York, and Rite Aid store in Palm Desert, California. Rite Aid store in Concord, New Hampshire. Rite Aid store in Rancho Mission Viejo, California. Rite Aid store in New Windsor, New York. Rite Aid store in Chesapeake, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Marysville, Washington. Rite Aid store in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Jeanette, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Medford, New Jersey. Rite Aid store in Northridge, California. Rite Aid store in Cleveland, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Woodhaven, Michigan. And Rite Aid store in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Smithfield, Virginia. Rite Aid store Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Richmond, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Chino Hills, California. Rite Aid store Kirkland, Washington. Rite Aid store in Jefferson, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Portsmouth, Virginia. Rite Aid store Brooklyn, New York. Rite Aid store in Salem, New Jersey. Rite Aid store in Newark, Delaware. Rite Aid store in Auburn, California. Rite Aid store in North Olmsted, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Washington, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Carnegie, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Sharpsville, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Auburn, Washington. Rite Aid store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Rite Aid store in Pontiac, Michigan. These are all repeats, by the way, of certain locations in different cities. So, Rite Aid store in Hermiston, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Spokane, Washington. Rite Aid store in Apple Valley, California. Rite Aid store in Vancouver, Washington. Rite Aid store in Newark, Delaware. Rite Aid store in Warrington, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Beechwood, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Brooklyn, New York. Rite Aid store in Troy, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Placerville, California. Rite Aid store in Newport News, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Comac, New York. Rite Aid store in Tukwila, Washington. Rite Aid store in Martinez, California. Rite Aid store in Williamsburg, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Brooklyn, New York. Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Rite Aid store in Edwardsville, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Hazlet, New Jersey. Rite Aid store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Sayville, New York. Rite Aid store in Anaheim, California. Rite Aid store in Reading, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington. Rite Aid in Portland, Oregon. Rite Aid store in Gillette, California. Another Rite Aid store in Newport News, Virginia. Rite Aid store in South Chesterfield, Virginia. Rite Aid store in New Haven, Connecticut. Rite Aid store in Enumclaw, Washington. Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington. Rite Aid store in Canby, Oregon. Rite Aid store State College, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store Fair Lawn, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Broadview Heights, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Washahugal, Washington. Rite Aid store in Roseville, California. Rite Aid store in Canton, Michigan. Rite Aid store in New Baltimore, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Willowhibby, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Canton, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Sterling Heights, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Derain, Michigan. Rite Aid store in Wrightstown, New Jersey. Rite Aid store in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Rite Aid store in Stamford, Connecticut. Rite Aid store in Waterbury, Connecticut. And Rite Aid store in East Liverpool, Ohio. Rite Aid store Westchester, Pennsylvania. Rite Aid store Toledo, Ohio. Rite Aid store in Canton, Pennsylvania. Canton, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, South Lake Tahoe, California, Rite Aid, New Haven, Connecticut, Truckee, Miller Place, Beechwood. These might be some repeats that we just went through. I'm trying to see here. Yeah, we might actually have gone through some of these. I don't know why I copied this twice. Erie, Pennsylvania. Okay, this wasn't the repeat. Rite Aid store in Erie, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Elkton, Pennsylvania, 2 Rite Aid stores in Baltimore, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Pennsburg, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Abingdon, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Chickasaw, New York, Rite Aid store in Johnsontown, New York, Rite Aid store in Leventon, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Adirone, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Merrimack, New Hampshire, Rite Aid store Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store Fremont, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Greenville, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Grand Ledge, Michigan, Rite Aid store in West Piston, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Yardley, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Tinton Falls, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Erie, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Glen Burnie, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Tobyhanna, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Haledon, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Arlington, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Chester, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Massillon, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Yeadon, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Lumberton, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in New Carsley, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Dayton, Ohio, Rite Aid store Youngstown, Ohio, Rite Aid store Springfield, Ohio, Rite Aid store Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, another Rite Aid in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Somers, New Jersey, another Rite Aid store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Glen Burnie, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Macomb, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Brooklyn, New York, Rite Aid store in Williamstown, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Strugus, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Wixom, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Clinton Township, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Shelby Township, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Jackson, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Taylor, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Manistee, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Garden City, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Flint, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Detroit, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Clinton Township, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Farmington Hills, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Floral Park, New York, Rite Aid store in St. John's, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Titusville, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Chesapeake, Virginia, Rite Aid store in Flint, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Bellefonte, Ohio, Rite Aid store in Lansing, Michigan, Rite Aid store in Flushing, New York, Rite Aid store in Levittown, New York, Rite Aid store in Renton, Washington, Rite Aid store in Mill Creek, Washington, Rite Aid store in Berlin, Washington, Rite Aid store in Everett, Washington, Rite Aid store in Lacey, Washington, Rite Aid store in Portland, Oregon, Rite Aid store in Meriden, Idaho, Rite Aid store in Boise, Idaho, 2 Rite Aid stores in Los Angeles, California, Rite Aid store in Downey, California, Rite Aid store in Long Beach, California, Rite Aid store in Burbank, California, Rite Aid store in Cabana, California, Rite Aid store in La Punita, California, Rite Aid store in Alhambra, California, Rite Aid store in Oceanside, California, Rite Aid store in Romana, California, 2 Rite Aid stores in San Diego, California, Rite Aid stores in Methuen, California, Rite Aid store in Donna Point, California, Rite Aid stores in Lagani, Nigel, California, Rite Aid store in Yobar, Lindy, California, Rite Aid store in Santa Ana, California, Rite Aid store in Ventura, California, Rite Aid store in Oxnard, California, Rite Aid store in Cupertino, California, Rite Aid store in Santa Clara, California, Rite Aid store in Santa Cruz, California, Rite Aid store in Aurora, California, Rite Aid store in Curtis Heights, California, Rite Aid store in Sacramento, California, Rite Aid store in Costa Mesa, California, Rite Aid store in Los Angeles, California, Rite Aid store in Ontario, California, Rite Aid store in Lamurdia, California, Rite Aid store in Graham, Washington, and Rite Aid store in Irvine, California. Rite Aid store in Monterey, California, Rite Aid store in Seattle, Washington, Rite Aid store in Linwood, Washington, 2 Rite Aid stores in Bellevue, Washington, Rite Aid store in Redmonton, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Quakertown, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Webster, Massachusetts, Rite Aid store in Bethel, Connecticut, Rite Aid store in West Milford, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Mantua, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Mullica Hill, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Robbinsville, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Toms River, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Whiting, New Jersey, Rite Aid store in Brooklyn, New York, Rite Aid store in Oceanside, New York, Rite Aid store in Valley Stream, New York, Rite Aid store in Bayshore, New York, Rite Aid store in Belmore, New York, Rite Aid store in Capeg, New York, Rite Aid store in East Northport, New York, Rite Aid store in Huntington Station, New York, Rite Aid store in Medford, New York, Rite Aid store in Oyster Bay, New York, Rite Aid store in West Patchogue, New York, Rite Aid store in Port Jefferson Station, New York, Rite Aid store in Smithtown, New York, Rite Aid store in Kenmore, New York, and Rite Aid store in Rochester, New York. Rite Aid store in New Kingston, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Rochester, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Moon Township, Pennsylvania, 2 Rite Aid stores in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Greenburgh, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Export, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Allentown, Pennsylvania, 2 Rite Aid stores in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 1 Rite Aid store in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, probably pronounced that wrong, Rite Aid store in Newark, Delaware, Rite Aid store in Wilmington, Delaware, Rite Aid store in Bel Air, Maryland, Rite Aid store in Chesapeake, Virginia, Rite Aid store in Hanover, Virginia, and the Rite Aid store in Hanover, Pennsylvania, Rite Aid store in Chesapeake, Virginia, Rite Aid store in Chesapeake, Virginia, Rite Aid store in Hermiston, Oregon, Spokane, Apple Valley. I'm trying to see if this is too much of the list. Oh no, this is it. Okay, this is the last location. Ready Store Hermiston, Oregon. Ready Store in Spokane, Washington. Ready Store Apple Valley, California. Ready Store Vancouver, Washington. Ready Store Newark, Delaware. Ready Store Warrington, Pennsylvania. Ready Store Beechwood, Ohio. Ready Store Virginia Beach, Virginia. Ready Store Brooklyn, New York. Ready Store Troy, Michigan. Rite Aid Store in Placerville, California. Rite Aid Store in Newport News, Virginia. Rite Aid Store in Comac, New York. Rite Aid Store in Tukwila, Washington. Martinez, California. Rite Aid Store in Williamsburg, Virginia. Rite Aid Store Brooklyn, New York. Rite Aid Store Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Rite Aid Store Edwardsville, Pennsylvania. So that is all of the Rite Aid locations that will be closing as of January 25th, 2023. I expect this list to be updated as the litigation with the opioid crisis does go on, because Rite Aid will be forced to close more locations. I will link this list in the description below. I want to thank Mr. Herbert for getting all this documentation together. So now, because of his help, I've been able to produce a video for you guys that does go over all of the Rite Aid closing stores as of Thursday, January 25th, 2024. So anyways, guys, thank you again for watching this video. Link to the list will be located in the video description below, and that will be it.